Jules Vaughn is one of those characters who at first glance seems bright, free, spontaneous, and full of life, the kind of person who floats into a room with colorful energy and immediately becomes the center of attention. But when we look deeper, we discover that this image is a mask built from years of trauma, loneliness, and emotional survival. People often describe her as a dreamlike presence, someone who brings excitement, creativity, and possibility into the lives of those around her, especially Rue. But the truth is that Jules' behavior is rooted in pain, not effortless magic. This makes her a perfect example of how the Manic Pixie Dream Girl trope breaks down when we examine the real psychological scars behind the fantasy. The trope normally describes a girl who exists to inspire someone else, usually a troubled person, to change or grow. She is quirky, unpredictable, emotionally mysterious, and seems to have no inner world outside what she brings to others. In Jules' case, people often see her this way because she appears so expressive and fearless. She dyes her hair, experiments with fashion, rides a bike through the night, falls in love quickly, and seems like she is constantly chasing a feeling of freedom. But this is where the illusion starts to fall apart. Her actions aren't random or whimsical. Her choices come from a long history of trauma that shape how she moves through the world. Understanding her psychology means understanding why she runs toward chaos, affection, and fantasy, and why she gives off the feeling of being larger than life even when she is deeply hurting. Jules' childhood trauma forms the foundation of her personality, and the show makes it clear that she grew up feeling unsafe, unseen, and unprotected. Her mother's addiction, emotional instability, and eventual leaving created a wound in Jules that never fully healed. As a child, she learned to blame herself for the instability around her, which is something many people with similar experiences internalize. When a child feels powerless, their mind often tries to make sense of the chaos by believing that they caused it, because that illusion of control feels safer than admitting they had none. So Jules grows up craving validation and searching for a sense of identity outside herself. She reaches for fantasy because reality has hurt her too many times. This is one of the key psychological elements that makes her appear like a manic pixie dream girl at first. Her brightness is not natural ease. It is a defense mechanism. It is a way of keeping people drawn to her, so she never has to feel alone again. The more she shines outwardly, the less people notice the darkness inside her. But unlike the trope, Jules is not a one-dimensional muse for someone else's growth. She is a survivor who learned to present herself in big, dramatic, emotional ways because quietness felt too dangerous. Emotion became her language for survival. Her relationship with Rue shows this dynamic clearly. To Rue, Jules feels like a lifeline, someone exciting and full of possibility, someone who brings hope to a life that feels heavy and dark. But this is not because Jules is perfect or magical. It is because both girls are using each other to fill emotional wounds. Rue wants comfort and escape, while Jules wants to be needed so she doesn't have to face her own broken pieces. In many stories, the Manic Pixie Dream Girl exists only to fix the protagonist, but in this case, Jules does not fix Rue, and Rue does not fix Jules. Instead, they fall into a cycle of emotional dependence that exposes how damaging the trope becomes when placed in a real world. Jules is not a fantasy. She is a person trying to survive. And survival for her means trying to control the way others see her. She wants to appear confident and in control, but beneath that surface is fear, insecurity, and the constant worry that she is not enough. Her need for affection becomes intense because she grew up with love that came and went. When love disappears in childhood, it can create a lifelong pattern of chasing connection wherever it appears, often without considering whether that connection is healthy. This explains why Jules becomes attached quickly, why she idealizes people she barely knows, and why she sometimes runs from people who get too close. She is constantly balancing between wanting to be loved and being terrified of it. Her exploration of identity also adds depth to her psychology. Jules transitions at a young age, and this journey is not only about gender but about reclaiming control over a life that once felt uncontrollable. She chooses to shape herself into someone beautiful and expressive because, for the first time, she can define who she is rather than being defined by pain. But even in this freedom, there is pressure. She feels like she must fit into a certain fantasy of femininity, always soft, always desired, always pleasing. She adopts these expectations not because they define her true self, but because they give her something stable to hold on to. And this is where the emotional tension grows. Her performance of femininity becomes exhausting. She begins to question not only what she wants from love, but what she wants from herself. This questioning makes her break even further from the Manic Pixie Dream Girl stereotype, because instead of existing as a simple symbol for someone else's story, she becomes a complex person trying to understand her own story. She is not carefree. She is fighting for her identity every day. Her interactions with others reveal the same patterns. When Jules meets someone, she often mirrors what she believes they want from her. She becomes playful, flirtatious, mysterious, or intense depending on the situation. This adaptive personality is not manipulation. It is trauma response behavior. Children who grow up in unstable households often become skilled at reading emotional cues, adjusting themselves to avoid conflict or abandonment. Jules learned to become whatever people needed her to be so that they wouldn't leave. This again creates the illusion of the Manic Pixie Dream Girl, a girl who seems to magically fit into anyone's world, bringing excitement and passion wherever she goes. But the truth is that she does this because she has never been taught that her own needs matter. She feels safest when she is pleasing others. When she finally realizes that she cannot keep bending herself into different shapes, she begins to fall apart. That breakdown is not a failure. It is a breakthrough. It marks the beginning of her journey towards seeing herself not as a fantasy, but as a person with real pain, real desires, and real boundaries. The beauty of Jules' story is that it exposes the harm behind the trope. The Manic Pixie Dream Girl trope turns girls into symbols, placing their value in how well they inspire someone else. Jules shows us the emotional cost of living like that. It is exhausting, painful, and unsustainable. Her trauma, her identity journey, her emotional coping mechanisms, and her relationships all reveal that people who appear magical on the outside often carry deep wounds inside. Her character teaches us that no one should exist to fix another person, and no one should be expected to be perfect, exciting, or endlessly supportive at the expense of their own mental health. Real people are not fantasies. They are complex, flawed, hurting, healing, and growing. Jules embodies all of this. She shows how trauma can shape personality, how identity can be both empowering and confusing, and how love can be both intoxicating and terrifying. She reveals that behind every colorful, sparkling exterior, there is a story worth listening to, not because it inspires someone else, but because it belongs to a real human being who deserves to be understood for who they truly are.